Hare Krishna, everyone. Welcome back to the daily readings of Srila Prabhupada's books, right here in the Haven, Hythe, Kent, UK, southeast England, right next to the English Channel. The world is heating up more and more, and we're cooling down more and more, just by hearing submissively the transcendental ecstasies of the Sri Caitanya-caritämrta and Srila Prabhupada's ecstatic Bhaktivedanta purports, where all the solutions to all our problems, both individual and collective, are put out on the table neatly by His Divine Grace. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur has glorified the Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita very poetically, not to be taken literally, but the essence of it is absolutely true. He said, in due course, Mahapralaya, devastating floods, will inundate the entire universe. If you attempt to survive by swimming in that deluge, then do not neglect to take hold of Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. Or if you cannot hold all three, then release Bhagavad Gita. If necessary, you can also relinquish Srimad Bhagavatam. But under no circumstances release your hold on Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. For if this one book remains, then the flood can do no actual damage, because after it has subsided, the messages of Shastra can be revived from Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita alone, it being the essence of all Shastra. Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda.
Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda.
Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda.
Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda.
Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda.
Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda.
Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
So the Lord has taken His devotees to cleanse the Gundica temple, the temple where Lord Jagannath will rest during the Rath Yatra ceremony and festivals. He comes from his temple, large temple in Puri, comes down the Grand Road towards the end, where he stays for 2 weeks, recovering from a cold. Actually, he's getting repainted and refurbished. But so Lord Chaitanya brought all of his devotees, and they cleansed once with brooms, twice with brooms, 3 times with brooms, and then they brought hundreds and hundreds of pots of water from Indradumna Lake, or what's it, Narendra, any one of those lakes, or maybe more. Anyway, and they started pouring water and washing and washing and washing. And during that whole process, Lord Chaitanya would compare what he collected to what all the others collected together, and his pile of straw and dust and dirt or whatever was bigger. So everybody learned by the Lord's personal example how to clean. Now we're going to hear more about this, what it means in terms of our heart. So during the cleansing, one devotee poured water on the lotus feet of the Lord and then drank the water and started distributing it to other devotees. And we begin there. Text 127, chapter 12, Madhya-lila. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is speaking. I now do not know what my destination is because of this offense. Indeed, your Bengali Vaishnava has greatly implicated me. He's talking to Swarup Damodar. Purport. It is significant that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu told Swarup Damodar Goswami that the Bengali Vaishnava was your Gaudiya Vaishnava. This means that all Gaudiya Vaishnavas who are followers of the Chaitanya cult are subordinate to Swarup Damodar Goswami. The Parampara system is very strictly observed by Gaudiya Vaishnavas. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's personal secretary was Swarup Damodar Goswami. The next group of devotees was the 6 Goswamis, then Kaviraj Goswami. It is necessary to observe the Parampara system of the Chaitanya cult. There are many offenses one can commit while serving the Lord, and these are described. There are many offenses one can commit while serving the Lord, and these are described in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Hari Bhakti Vilas, and other books. According to the rules and regulations, no one should accept obeisances in the temple of the Lord before the deity. Nor is it proper for a devotee to offer obeisances and touch the feet of the spiritual master before the deity. This is considered an offense. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself was personally the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, it was not actually offensive to wash his feet, his lotus feet, in the temple. However, because he was playing the part of an acharya, the Lord considered himself an ordinary human being. He also wanted to give instructions to ordinary human beings. The point is that even though one plays the part of a spiritual master, he should not accept obeisances or permit a disciple to wash his feet before the deity. This is a matter of etiquette. Text 128. At this point, Swarup Damodar Goswami caught the Gaudiya Vaishnava by the neck and, giving him a little push, ejected him from the Gundica Puri temple and made him stay outside. Text 129. After Swarup Damodar returned within the temple, he requested Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to excuse that innocent person. After this incident, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was very satisfied. He then asked all of the devotees to sit down in 2 lines on both sides. The Lord then personally sat down in the middle and picked up all kinds of straw, grains of sand, and dirty things. While Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was picking up the straws and grains of sand, he said, "I shall gather everyone's collection, and I shall ask whoever has collected less than all the others to pay a fine of sweet cakes and sweet rice." His management. In this way, all the quarters of the Gundica temple were completely cleansed and cleared. All quarters were cool and spotless, like one's cleansed and purified mind. Text 134. When the water from the different rooms was finally let out through the halls, it appears as if new rivers were rushing out to meet the waters of the ocean. Outside the gateway of the temple, all the roads were also cleansed, and no one could tell exactly how this was done. Purport. In commenting on the cleansing of the Gundica temple, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur says that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, as the world teacher, was personally giving instructions on how one should receive Lord Krishna the Supreme Personality of Godhead within one's cleansed and pacified heart. If one wants to see Krishna seated in his heart, he must first cleanse the heart, as prescribed by Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu in his Shikshastaka, Cheto Darpana Marjanam. In this age, everyone's heart is especially unclean, as confirmed in Srimad Bhagavatam, Ridyantaksto Yabhadrani. To wash away all dirty things accumulated within the heart, Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu advised everyone to chant the Hare Krishna mantra. The first result will be that the heart is cleansed, Cheto Darpana Marjanam. Similarly, Srimad Bhagavatam 1.2.17 confirms this statement. Shrinvatam swakata Krishna punya shravana kirtanaha ridyantaksto yabhadrani vidunoti surit satam. Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead, who is the Paramatma, Supersoul, in everyone's heart, and the benefactor of the truthful devotee, cleanses desire for material enjoyment from the heart of the devotee, who relishes his messages, which are in themselves virtuous when properly heard and chanted. If a devotee at all wants to cleanse his heart, he must chant and hear the glories of the Lord. Sri Krishna. Shrinvata Swakata Krishna. This is a simple process. Krishna himself will help cleanse the heart because he is already seated there. Krishna wants to continue living within the heart, and the Lord wants to give directions. But one has to keep his heart as clean as Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu kept the Gundica temple. The devotee, therefore, in this way, one can be pacified and enriched in devotional service. If the heart is filled with straw, grains of sand, weeds, or dust, in other words, Madhya-lila Purna, one cannot enthrone the Supreme Personality of Godhead there. The heart must be cleansed of all material motives brought about through fruitive work, speculative knowledge, the mystic yoga system, and so many other forms of so-called meditation. The heart must be cleansed without ulterior motive. As Srila Rupa Goswami says, Anya-bilashita shunyam jnana-karma-dhanavritam. In other words, there should not be any external motive. One should not attempt material upliftment, understanding the Supreme by speculative knowledge, fruitive activity, severe austerity, and penance, and so on. All these activities are against the natural growth of spontaneous love of Godhead. As soon as these are present within the heart should be understood to be unclean and therefore unfit to serve as Krishna's sitting place. We cannot perceive the Lord's presence in our hearts unless our hearts are cleansed. A material desire is explained as a desire to enjoy the material world to its fullest extent. In modern language, this is called economic development. An inordinate desire for economic development is considered to be like straws and grains of sand within the heart. If one is overly engaged in material activity, the heart will always remain disturbed. As stated by Narottam Das Thakur, Sansara Bishanale, Diva Nishi Hiya Dwale, Judaite na Kainu Upai. In other words, endeavor for material opulence is against the principle of devotional service. Material enjoyment includes activities such as great sacrifices for auspicious activity, charity, austerity, elevation to the higher planetary system, and even living happily within the material world. Modernized material benefits are like the dust of material contamination. When this dust is agitated by the whirlwind of fruitive activity, it overcomes the heart. Thus the mirror of the heart is covered with dust. There are many desires to perform auspicious and inauspicious activities, but people do not know how life after life they are keeping their hearts unclean. One who cannot give up the desire for fruitive activity is understood to be covered by the dust of material contamination. Karmis generally think that the interaction of fruitive activities can be counteracted by another karma, or fruitive activity. This is certainly a mistaken conception. If one is deluded by such a conception, he is cheated by his own activity. Such activities have been compared to an elephant's bathing. An elephant may bathe very thoroughly, but as soon as it comes out of the river, it immediately takes some sand from the land and throws it all over its body. If one suffers due to his past fruitive activities, he cannot counteract his suffering by performing auspicious activities. The sufferings of human society cannot be counteracted by material plans. The only way suffering can be mitigated is by Krishna consciousness. When one takes to Krishna consciousness and engages himself in the devotional service of the Lord, beginning with chanting and hearing the glories of the Lord, the cleansing of the heart begins. When the heart is actually cleansed, one can clearly see the Lord sitting there without any disturbance. In Srimad Bhagavatam 9.4.68, the Lord confirms that He sits within the heart of the pure devotee. Sadhavo hridayam mayam, sadhunam hridayam twaham. Impersonal speculation, monism, merging into the existence of the Supreme, speculative knowledge, mystic yoga, and meditation are all compared to grains of sand. They simply cause irritation to the heart. No one can satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead by such activities, nor do we give the Lord a chance to sit in our hearts peacefully. Rather, the Lord is simply disturbed by them. Sometimes yogis and jnanis in the beginning take to the chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra as a way to begin their various practices. But when they falsely think that they have attained release from the bondage of material existence, they give up chanting. They do not consider that the ultimate goal is the form of the Lord or the name of the Lord. Such unfortunate creatures are never favored by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, for they do not know what devotional service is. Lord Krishna describes them in the Bhagavad Gita in this way: Tanaham dvishatak kruran sangsare shwan naradaman jipam yajashram ashubhan asure shveva jonishu. Those who are envious and mischievous, who are the lowest among men, I perpetually cast into the ocean of material existence, into various demoniac species of life. Bhagavad Gita 16:19. By his practical example, Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu has shown us that all the grains of sand must be picked up thoroughly and thrown outside. Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu also cleansed the outside of the temple, fearing that the grains of sand would again come within. In this connection, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur explains that even though one may become free from the desire for fruitive activity, sometimes the subtle desire for fruitive activity again comes into being within the heart. One often thinks of conducting business to improve devotional activity, but the contamination is so strong that it may later develop into misunderstanding, described as kutinati, fault-finding, and pratishtasha, the desire for name and fame and for high position. Jiva-hingsa, envy of other living entities. Nishidachara, accepting things forbidden in the Shastra. Kama, desire for material gain. And puja, hankering for popularity. The word kutinati means duplicity. As an example of pratishdasha, one may attempt to imitate Srila Haridas Thakur by living in a solitary place. One's real desire may be for name and fame. In other words, one thinks that fools will accept one to be as good as Haridas Thakur, just because one lives in a solitary place. These are all material desires. A neophyte devotee is certain to be attacked by other material desires as well, namely desires for women and money. In this way, the heart is again filled with dirty things and becomes harder and harder, like that of a materialist. Gradually, one desires to become a reputed devotee or an avatar incarnation. The word jiva-hingsa, envy of other living entities, actually means stopping the preaching of Krishna consciousness. I shall repeat that for the benefit of all of us. The word jiva-hingsa, envy of other living entities, actually means stopping the preaching of Krishna consciousness. Preaching work is described as paropakara, welfare activity for others. Those who are ignorant of the benefits of devotional service must be educated by preaching. If one stops preaching and simply sits down in a solitary place, he is engaging in material activity. If one desires to make a compromise with the Mayavadis, he is also engaged in material activity. A devotee should never make compromises with non-devotees. By acting as a professional guru, mystic yogi, or miracle man, one may cheat and bluff the general public and gain fame as a wonderful mystic, but all this is considered to be dust, straw, and grains of sand within the heart. In addition, one should follow the regulative principles and not desire illicit sex, gambling, intoxicants, or meat. To give us practical instructions, Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu cleansed the temple twice. His second cleansing was more thorough. The idea was to throw away all these stumbling blocks on the path of devotional service. He cleansed the temple with firm conviction, as is evident from his using his own personal garments for cleaning. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wanted to see personally that the temple was thoroughly cleansed to the standard of clean marble. Clean marble gives a cooling effect. Devotional service means attaining peace from all disturbances caused by material contamination. In other words, it is the process by which the mind is cooled. The mind can be peaceful and thoroughly cleansed when one no longer desires anything but devotional service. Even though all dirty things may be cleansed away, sometimes subtle desires remain in the mind for impersonalism, monism, success, and the four principles of religious activity: dharma, artha, kama, and moksha. All these are like spots on clean cloth. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also wanted to cleanse all these away. By his practical activity, Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu informed us how to cleanse our hearts. Once the heart is cleansed, we should invite Lord Sri Krishna to sit down, and we should observe the festival by distributing prasadam and chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu used to teach every devotee by his personal behavior. Everyone who spreads the cult of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu accepts a similar responsibility. The Lord was personally chastising and praising individuals in the course of the cleaning, and those who are engaged as acharyas must learn from Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu how to train devotees by personal example. The Lord was very pleased with those who could cleanse the temple by taking out undesirable things accumulated within. This is called anartha nivritti, cleansing the heart of all unwanted things. Thus the cleansing of the Gundica mandir was conducted by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to let us know how the heart should be cleansed and soothed to receive Lord Sri Krishna and enable him to sit within the heart without disturbance. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ki jai. Srila Prabhupada's Transcendental Bhaktivedanta Purports ki jai. What a purport! Teaching us how to cleanse our hearts and what to cleanse from the heart, leaving no stone unturned. Text 136. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also cleansed the Nrsinga temple, inside and outside. Finally, he rested a few minutes and then began dancing. Purport. The Nrsinga temple is a nice temple, just outside the Gundica temple. In this temple, there's a great festival on the day of Nrsinga Chaturdashi. There is also a Nrsinga temple at Navadvip, where the same festival is observed, as described by Murari Gupta in his book, Caitanya-caritämrta. Text 137. All around Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, all the devotees performed congregational chanting. The Lord, just like a maddened lion, danced in the middle. 138. As usual, when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu danced, there were perspiration, trembling, fading of the bodily luster, tears, jubilation, and roaring. Indeed, the tears from his eyes washed his body and those before him. Text 139. In this way, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu washed the bodies of all the devotees with the tears from his eyes. The tears poured like the rains in the month of Shravana. Text 40. The sky was filled with the great and loud chanting of Sankirtan, and the earth shook from the jumping and dancing of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu always liked the loud chanting of Surup Damodar. Therefore, when Surup Damodar sang, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu danced and jumped high in jubilation. Text 142. The Lord thus chanted and danced for some time. Finally, understanding the circumstances, he stopped. 143. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu then ordered Sri Gopal, the son of Advaita Acharya, to dance. While dancing in ecstatic love, Sri Gopal fainted and fell to the ground, unconscious. When Sri Gopal fainted, Advaita Acharya hastily took him upon his lap. Seeing that he was not breathing, he became very much agitated. Text 146. Advaita Acharya and others began to chant the holy name of Lord Nrsinga and sprinkle water. The roaring of the chant was so great that it seemed to shake the entire universe. When the boy did not regain consciousness after some time, Advaita Acharya and the other devotees began to cry. Then Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu placed his hand on the chest of Sri Gopal and said loudly, "Gopal, stand up." As soon as Gopal heard the voice of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he immediately came to his senses. All the devotees then began to dance, chanting the holy name of Hari. Text 150. This incident has been described in detail by Vrindavan Das Thakur. Therefore, I have described it only in brief. Purport. This is a matter of etiquette. If a previous acharya has already written about something, there is no need to repeat it for personal sense gratification or to outdo the previous acharya. Unless there is some definite improvement, one should not repeat. Text 151. After taking rest, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and all the devotees departed to take their baths. Text 152. After bathing, the Lord stood on the bank of the lake and put on dry garments. After offering obeisances to Lord Nrsingadev, whose temple was nearby, the Lord entered a garden. In the garden, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu sat down with the other devotees. Vaninath Roy then came and brought all kinds of Mahaprasadam. Kashi Mishra and Tulasi, the superintendent of the temple, brought as much prasadam as 500 men could eat. Seeing the large quantity of prasadam, which consisted of rice, cakes, sweet rice, and a variety of vegetables, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was very satisfied. Text 156. Among the devotees present with Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu were Paramananda Puri, Brahmananda Bharati, Advaita Acharya, and Nityananda Prabhu. Acharya Ratna, Acharya Nidhi, Srivas Thakur, Gadadhar Pandit, Shankar, Nandanacharya, Raghava Pandit, and Vakreshwar were also present. 158. Receiving the permission of the Lord, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya sat down. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and all his devotees sat on raised wooden seats. In this way, all the devotees sat down to take their lunch in consecutive lines, one behind the other. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was repeatedly calling, Haridas, Haridas, and at that time Haridas, standing at a distance, spoke as follows. Haridas said, "Let Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu take his lunch with the devotees. Since I am abominable, I cannot sit down among you. Govinda will give me prasadam later, outside the door." Understanding his mind, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did not call him again. Text 163 and 164. Surup Damodar Goswami, Jagadananda, Damodar Pandit, Kashishwar, Gopinath, Vaninath, and Shankar distributed prasadam, and the devotees chanted the holy names at intervals. Lord Sri Krishna had previously taken his lunch in the forest, and that very pastime was remembered by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Just by remembering the pastimes of Lord Sri Krishna, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was agitated by ecstatic love. But considering the time and circumstance, he remained somewhat patient. 167. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, "You can give me the ordinary vegetable known as lapra vyanjana, and you may deliver to all the devotees better preparations like cakes, sweet rice, and amrita gutika." Purport. Labra vyanjana is a combination of several green vegetables, all mixed together. It is often mixed with rice and delivered to poor men. Amrita gutika is a preparation of thick puri mixed with condensed milk. It is also known as Amrita Rasavali. Text 166. Since Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is omniscient, he knew what types of preparations each person liked. He therefore had Swarup Damodar deliver these preparations to each devotee to his full satisfaction. Text 169. Jagadananda went to distribute prasadam, and suddenly he placed all the first-class preparations on the plate of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Little competition going on here. Text 70. When such nice prasadam was put on the plate of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the Lord was outwardly very angry. Nonetheless, when the preparations were placed on his plate, sometimes by tricks and sometimes by force, the Lord was satisfied. Text 177. When the Lord was thus delivered, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu looked at it for some time. Being afraid of Jagadananda, he finally ate something. Everything he did was for the pleasant pleasure of the devotees. Everything he did. The devotees were all trying to please him, and he was trying to please all the devotees. And even when some of the devotees wanted him to break his sannyas vows by accepting this and that, he sometimes did it out of fear of them, wanting to please them, not wanting them to be displeased. And this is the whole principle of devotional life, of devotional principles, to please everyone. Therefore, if we make the rule and regulation the master, we lose that taste of pleasing everyone, wanting everyone to be pleased. That doesn't mean that we should, engage the devotees in sense gratification in order to please them. No. But it means we give them what will actually please them, what they actually want. Pure Krishna consciousness. Text 172. The Lord knew that if he did not eat the food offered by Jagadananda, Jagadananda would certainly fast. Being afraid of this, Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ate some of the prasadam he offered. Swarup Damodar Goswami then brought some excellent sweetmeats and standing before the Lord, offered them to him. Swarup Damodar Goswami then said, "Just take a little of this Mahaprasadam and see how it is that Lord Jagannath has accepted it." Upon saying this, Swarup Damodar placed some food before the Lord, and the Lord, out of affection, ate it. Even he would eat out of affection to please the devotees, not for his own personal sense gratification. Text 176. Swarup Damodar and Jagadananda again and again offered the Lord some food. Thus they behaved affectionately with the Lord. This was very, very uncommon. 177. The Lord made Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya sit on his left side, and when Sarvabhauma saw the behavior of Swarup Damodar and Jagadananda, he smiled. Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also wanted to offer Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya first-class food. Therefore, out of affection, he had the servers put first-class food on his plate again and again. Text 179. Gopinathacharya also brought first-class food and offered it to Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya while speaking sweet words. After serving the Bhattacharya with first-class prasadam, Gopinathacharya said, "Just consider what the Bhattacharya's previous mundane behavior was. Just consider how at present he is enjoying transcendental bliss. Purport. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya was previously a smarta brahmana, that is, one who strictly follows the Vedic principles on the mundane platform. On the mundane platform, one cannot believe that prasadam is transcendental, that Govinda is the original form of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, or that a Vaishnava is a liberated person. These transcendental considerations are out of the ordinary Vedic scholars' jurisdiction. Most Vedic scholars are called Vedantists. These so-called followers of Vedanta philosophy consider the absolute truth to be impersonal. They also believe that a person born in a particular caste cannot change his caste until he dies and takes rebirth. The Smarta Brahmanas do also reject the fact that Mahaprasadam, food offered to the deity, is transcendental and materially uncontaminated. Originally, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya was subjected to all the rules and regulations of the Vedic principles on the mundane platform. Now, Gopinathacharya pointed out how Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya had been converted by the causeless mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Being converted, Sarvabhauma partook of prasadam with the Vaishnavas. Indeed, he sat by the side of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Text 181. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya replied to Gopinathacharya, I was simply a less intelligent logician, but by your grace I have received this opulence of perfection. 182. But for Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya continued, who is so merciful? He has converted a crow into a Garuda. Who could be so merciful? In the association of the jackals known as logicians, I simply continued to bark a resounding wow, wow. Now from the same mouth I am chanting the holy names Krishna and Hari. Whereas I once associated with the disciples of logic, all non-devotees, I am now merged in the waves of the nectarian ocean of the association of devotees. Purport. As Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur explains, the word bahirmukha refers to a person who is very busy tasting material enjoyment. Such a person always imposes himself as an enjoyer of the external energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Being attracted by external opulence, the non-devotee always forgets his intimate relationship with Krishna. Such a person does not like the idea of becoming Krishna conscious. This is explained by Srila Prahlad Maharaj in Srimad Bhagavatam 7.5, 30 and 31. Matirna Krishne padatak svato va mito pipadyeta griha pratanam andanta gobir vishatam timishram punak punas charvita charvananam nate vidu swartakatim hi vishnum durashaya ye bahir artha maninaha andanyatandayar upaniyamanas tepisha tantram urudamni badaha. Materialists who are overly attracted to the material body, material world, and material enjoyment, who cannot control their material senses, are carried to the darkest regions of material existence. Such people cannot become Krishna conscious, either by themselves or by congregational effort. Such people do not understand that the goal of life for a human being is to understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vishnu. A human life is especially meant for this purpose, and one has to go through all kinds of penances and austerities and set aside the propensity for sense gratification. Materialists always remain blind because they are always guided by blind rascals. A materialistic person considers himself free to act as he likes. He does not know that he is rigidly controlled by the stringent laws of material nature, nor does he know that he has to transmigrate from one body to another and perpetually rot in material existence. Such rascals and foolish people are lured by the prayers of their foolish leaders for sense gratification, and they cannot understand what is meant by Krishna consciousness. The material world exists outside the spiritual sky, and a foolish materialist cannot estimate the extent of this material sky. What then can he know of the spiritual sky? Materialists simply believe their imperfect senses and do not take instructions from the revealed scriptures. According to Vedic civilization, one has to see through the authority of the revealed scriptures. Shastra Chakshu. One should see everything through the medium of the Vedic literature. In this way, one can distinguish between the spiritual world and material world. Those who ignore such instructions cannot be convinced of the existence of the spiritual world. Because they have forgotten their spiritual identity, such materialists take this material world as the all in all. They are therefore called Vahirmukha. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said to Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, "From your previous birth, you have been in Krishna consciousness. Thus you love Krishna so much that simply by your association, we are all developing Krishna consciousness." Thus, there is no one within these three worlds save for Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is always willing to increase the glories of the devotees and give them satisfaction. Purport. In this regard, one should consult the discussion between Kapila and Devahuti on the subject matter of devotional service. This is found in Srimad Bhagavatam, 3rd Canto. And we'll stop our readings there tonight. Hare Krishna. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ki jai. Sri Swarup Damodar ki jai. Ramananda Roy ki jai. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya ki jai. All the glorious eternal associates of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the teachers and deliverers of the world and deliverers of transcendental pleasure to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And all glories to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the deliverer of transcendental pleasure to all the devotees of the Lord. Hare Krishna. Okay, anybody have any reflections or discussion or anything?
Kiran Ratna said Hare Krishna.
Who said?
Kiran?
Kiran?
Kiran Ratna.
Kiran Ratna. Haribol.
Hare Krishna also from Sucharu Devidasi.
Sucharu.
Mm-hmm. Krishna Primavati Devidasi said, Dandavat Pranams Maharaj. Hare Krishna to all the viewers, listeners, all glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to Lord Chaitanya, and his eternal associates.
Jai Ho.
Rati Manjari said, Jai Guru Maharaj.
Jai Rati.
Radha Madan Mohan said, Dear Maharaj, Hare Krishna, all glories to Srila Prabhupada and your transcendental daily readings of Srila Prabhupada's books. Jai Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Brian said, Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Krishna Premavati Devi Dasi said, these pastimes of Lord Chaitanya are so sweet. ...
And so on and so on and so on. Yeah, there's actually no way to describe this other than just hearing it and relishing. And that's what Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami wants. That's his life and soul, that he just allows the devotees to drink this nectar. How wonderful. Okay, we're waiting for, I talked to our Abai Das Brahmacharya today from Serbia. There's one place where near the airport where many people go to go for a few days before they come back to the places they can stay longer in their visa. But he'll be coming back tomorrow afternoon. We're all looking forward. But in the meantime, Shyam Kishore is standing in sterlingly, doing everything just right, cooking up a storm, cleaning up a storm, hearing and chanting up a storm. Hare Krishna. What a life to be able to hear the pastimes of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. I pity the devotees or anybody that can't read these books for whatever reason, or don't read these books for whatever reason. Hare Krishna.
Krishna Premavati said, Jai, all glories to the devotees.
All right, assembled devotees, out there wherever you are, Hare Krishna, thank you so much for your... Whoops, we got something else coming over here, I can tell.
This is from Noel.
From Noel Craver.
Craver, yeah. Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. I appreciate it in text 12,184, where it is mentioned, I'm now merged in the waves of the nectarian ocean of the association devotees. What
Yes.
a wonderful realization.
Yes. This, therefore, we're learning as we go forward in this Sri Caitanya-caritämrta, we're learning more and more about why we read every morning this glorification by Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, this poetic glorification of just how wonderful the Sri Caitanya-caritämrta is, because it contains everything, and in such a way that it all fits together and gives us the highest transcendental understanding of things.
Rati Manjari, beautiful, arranged life.
Yes.
All glories to the brahmacharis. Surely you are blessed.
Hey, Rati, you're going out and teaching people to chant Hare Krishna and leading kirtan. You're blessed also.
Kanchana Beli Devidasi said, thank you, Maharaj.
Hare Krishna. Okay, I'm going to move on now. I've got some things to do tonight. A lot of things happening over here. Getting ready for the going under the knife, so to speak. Have to go up to Hereford on the 21st, Monday. And on 23rd, we have our meeting, destined meeting with the surgery department. All right, yes, something else.
Yeah. From Krishna Premavati Devidasi.
Yes, Krishna Premavati Devidasi.
Maharaj, Lord Chaitanya said Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya was Krishna conscious in previous birth. Why was he then now a Mayavadi first?
To prove the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Actually, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya is not different than Brihaspati, the priest of the demigods, the greatest scholar, one of the greatest scholars in the universe. These are the pastimes of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And in order to glorify Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, he said this. When he said, in your previous birth, he doesn't mean that he was just born an ordinary person in the material world. He was Brihaspati before. And he's always been a devotee of the Lord. And aside from that, he's an eternal associate of Lord Chaitanya. So this is just, it's a poetic way of Lord Chaitanya glorifying his devotees. He's trying to glorify Lord Chaitanya, and Lord Chaitanya is trying to glorify him. So sometimes they may even say things that are exaggerated in order to glorify them and get the one-upsman. In the material world, we always get one up on the other person by putting ourselves up and putting them down. But in the spiritual world, we go up, one up, by putting ourselves down and putting them up. Therefore, if you can hear these pastimes without, without doubt, giving up doubts, you can get love of God just by hearing them and accepting them as they are. That's the secret to getting Krishna Prema.
Kanchana Bailey Devidasi said, for your daily reading of Srila Prabhupada's books, which I am able to listen every evening during the lockdown. And Krishna Premavati Devidasi said, Jai Madhya-lila with Lord Chaitanya. Thank you for explaining. Yes.
Hare Krishna.
Krishna Premavati just said so wonderful.
Shri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ki jai. Shri Caitanya-caritämrta ki jai. Samaveda Bhakta Brinda ki jai. Gaur Prem Anandi. Hari Hari Bo. See you tomorrow night. Same place, same station, same subject matter, same transcendental ecstasies flowing from the pen of Srila Prabhupada. See you tomorrow night. Hare Krishna.